Hello, everyone. This is AK Enamul Haque from Dhaka, Bangladesh. And Merry Christmas to everyone, and also Happy New Year. This is the last day of the year. And here I am with my friend Philip Shah. Philip Shah, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, Enamel.
Thank you. This month, we wanted to talk about the trust in the world. In other words, as we cross the 2025, we see, and at least my feeling is that the whole world is losing trust on each other. We remember discussing this in 2022 when the global war started, and we said, look, the SWIFT disconnecting of the Soviet Russia from the SWIFT was a mistake because it's going to break up the trust. Right now, we all know that Ukraine and also the Russians are talking about ending the war. And I can see from my end, there's a trust problem. In other words, they don't trust each other. The Ukrainian government's prime minister does not trust anyone. President doesn't trust anyone in Russia, and neither do Russia trust them. So given this scenario, as we have seen Trump talking about it, that I will finish the war in 24 hours, it did not happen. And it has been more than a year. We continuing with this discussion happening. And I don't see that it is coming. Although we are hopeful that people will end this war, because I think for a global economy to come to a sense, there will be a requirement for this. On the other hand, trust is not just on war. Trust between friends like Canada and United States is also has been broken. And that is also, again, a factor that is creating a major uproar within the Western world. Same thing happens between Europeans and Americans. So given all this, we thought that we will discuss about trust and how trust is very important for all of us to build, and why we should all culture a situation of trust across nations, across regions, across races and colors and faiths. So here we are for the year 2026. Over to Phil.
Thank you very much, Enamel. I do appreciate what you say. I remember very clearly when the Russia-Ukraine war started, you used to have a saying back in our younger days where there was some conflict in the world. It usually had to do with the Middle East or something like that. You always said that, it's all based on history, where if you look back, something happened and trust was broken. Somebody's grandfather didn't like somebody else's grandfather, and here we are hundreds of years later, still not trusting each other. And I remember at the time in 2022 when that war started, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube after it's out.
Yes.
And so 3 years later, when we see we've had all the problems you've talked about, we've had the SWIFT system withdrawn from the Russians, where they can't make payments in a regular economic manner in the global economy like they could. They've had sanctions. I mean, there's certainly bad actors on both sides. But the bottom line at the end of the day, and you can see that this week when there's talk of peace during this holiday season, where even President Trump would say that these leaders don't trust each other. In fact, they hate each other. And you can say even in the news in the last few days, where the Russian leader is accusing the Ukrainians of sending drones into his personal residence. And the Russian foreign minister has been on the television saying, well, we're going to have retribution for that. And of course, the Ukrainians are denying that happened. And the American president said he didn't like that either. So you could just see in that one roundabout of news events in the last few days how it encompasses the lack of trust that has got even worse over the last 3 years. But that's just one example in that particular part of the world. In 2025, we had a Canadian election where the one candidate that was elected gave Canadians the thought that he might be able to handle President Trump, who openly talks about making Canada the 51st state and annexation. that our taxes would be a lot lower, we'd be a lot better protected, and who knows what else. But the bottom line is that the trust between Canada and the United States has been broken irrecoverably over the last year when President Trump has come to power. And that's what our prime minister said. You don't have to rely on that with me. I mean, you lived in Canada for a few years. You would know that the trust we had back and forth with each other, crossing the border all the time. Well, Canadians have stopped to do that. So, there's many aspects of this. So we've had the trust broken in Russia and Ukraine, trust broken in Canada and the United States, trust broken between Europe and the United States. You could make an argument, trust broken between the United States, Venezuela. You could make the argument between the United States and Brazil with regard to tariffs. And so as we sit here at the end of 2025, it's been quite a year. And, there's thoughts now that maybe peace might break out, even though we've got problems in South Sudan and Yemen and places like that. But the issue is, when you think about it, okay, well, this is where we are. We've had a lot of trust broken. So here's 2026. We're just going to be coming into that in the next few days. How does that weigh on 2026? Is trust going to be suddenly going to come back with Russia and Ukraine joining the global economy and bringing Russia back into the global economy with a peace agreement? It's very unlikely, right? It means that 2026 is going to be pretty difficult. Pretty difficult. At least it looks that way from here. So I'll let you take it from here.
No, I think I agree with you because it doesn't look to me that they can rebuild the trust factor. Because imagine when I was in Canada, United States, almost so much friendly countries. Even the border virtually did not exist. There is a border, but you could all travel across the borders each other. I remember we had dinner on the other side. Remember that so we had all these, and based on this, I never thought that Canada and United States will be so much, in this at this state, because I was living in Bangladesh. And in South Asia, again, is the trust factor. So you see, because the countries each other do not trust much, and there is no standard norms what to do and what not to do, many things have been broken over the last few years. Imagine this one I was discussing with you, the case of European confiscating Russian sovereign asset, federal asset. And that is also breaching of trust. Now, they have not done it yet. They will not do it probably. But the question is, they have stated it. They have resolved this. And then finally, it was the Belgium who did not agree to this because Belgium had the clearinghouse. And because Belgium had the clearinghouse, they did not agree to the request that they should confiscate the property of the Russian government. So you realize that such an attempt itself is going to weaken the global economy, because if you can attempt for some reason confiscate the property of a superpower like Russia, who else is going to keep money in this world? So if you see war around the world, because of the trust factor missing, few things has happened. Right now, UAE has become a new hub for financial capital of the world. The second one is becoming Singapore. Third one is becoming Hong Kong. So you realize that the trust factor has moving the financial capitals of the world to a different location, and they are all saying, look, we will keep the trust. So I'm giving you the idea that I think 2026, the year should be rebuilding the trust. I think we should all recognize that whatever happens between us, whatever happens between nations, there should be certain minimum sanity and trust exist. Now, in a way, you can always disagree with someone. In a way, you can always say, oh, he's a bad person. You can create all these stories about it. But I think there is a minimum requirement. I think in the past, in the history, all the Magna Carta that you all see, we're all rebuilding trust among the world. Even warring party should have a trust with each other. I think that is purely missing. And let the 2026 be a year of rebuilding trust among the nations.
That would be good, but we need leaders that are conciliatory. and use diplomacy and different things like that. Like, for instance, is that going to be President Trump? Is that going to be President Xi of China? Is that going to be President Putin? Or is that going to be Prime Minister Modi in India? A lot of these individuals might have the capacity to be conciliatory. Mr. Trump certainly doesn't seem to be that way. Prime Minister Modi in the West seems to be conciliatory, but at home in India, I don't think he's always so conciliatory among the population. So I hope that it changes. It would be great to have trust back, but just the way things are, just the way things have built from 22, 23, 24, and now 25, and we know what's going on with Thailand and Cambodia. They seem even to have a shooting war going on, even though that stopped in the last few days. Just think about the trusts that have been broken there. So anyway, I don't know. As you look into 2026, it doesn't look very good from a trust standpoint.
I agree with you. But let us hope for the best. Just to give you one idea, that my own feeling is that it's not just one president. If you look at from 2000 onward, there has been a lot of time the global trust has been broken, but it was never with a superpower. Just because it is a superpower, it has been escalated to a point that the global world is in trouble now. So I think, given the world that we used to live, let us hope that we get it back, and let us hope our leaders become, good enough to feel that, look, we have a duty, and duty is to rebuild trust.
That would be a very good thing. And it's interesting, as the authors of East West, you've stood in Dresden where I am, I've stood in Dhaka where you are, and the world looks different from each different place. But let's hope in 2026 we get on the road back to trusting each other and making for a better world.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us.